evening, and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Spectrum. We are live on Radio 1 FM 90 here in the Central Building in the heart of our city, Kampala, which is the home of this radio station. But we're also live on its website, which is www.radio1fm90.com. You click on the icon with the word Listen Live. You can also find this radio station live on the different radio listening apps, which you can obtain from the app stores of your smartphone. You download any, look for Radio 1 FM 90. And as long as you have an internet connection, you should be able to listen to us loud and clear from anywhere across this globe. Radio 1 is also live on your TV set. If you have a DSTV connection, you look for audio channel 897. We do encourage you to be part of this discussion by sharing with us your question or comments via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. Kindly do not send an audio clip, just type a message, and your question or concern will be responded to by the guests who are here in studio this evening. Today we'll be looking at the response of the financial sector to increasing cases of fraud in Uganda. Now, electronic fraud has become one of the major threats in the financial sector, given the reports that we have continued to see, where billions of shillings have been stolen from financial institutions. It has been suggested that there are sophisticated people who are carrying out cyber attacks against these financial institutions through hacking and other means. We also have heard from ordinary Ugandans who have been complaining about money disappearing suddenly from their accounts. And all this has been attributed to financial fraud. Now, in response to these happenings, a financial sector anti-fraud mechanism has been launched. And today we are looking at how this initiative will be able to respond to this challenge in our country. Two guests in studio, Mr. James Bukulu. He's the Deputy Director, National Payment Systems. He comes from Bank of Uganda. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, moderator. Good evening, viewers and listeners.
Also in studio, Mr. Ronald Mugisha is the Senior Cyber and Fraud Risk Officer at the Uganda Bankers Association. This is an association that brings together the financial institutions regulated by Bank of Uganda in this country. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, let's begin with a quick overview of the financial sector in Uganda. It's one of those sectors that the government talks about from time to time as indicating the growth of the economy. But we want to understand, where are we when you look at the financial sector itself before we jump into this major problem that you're seeking to address?
Thank you, moderator. Good evening once again, our listeners. The financial sector is actually has grown by leaps and bounds, but we see increasingly technology is helping us to manage our daily lives. For example, people today no longer go to the banking halls to bank their money, or they don't need to go to a bank manager to request for, maybe they want a small transaction. They simply go download an app. Many banks now have apps. You just download an app and transact. So business, the business that we are seeing today has moved away from the traditional business that we knew yesterday to now something. It is an elevation in terms of us using electronic gadgets, tablets, your mobile phone, or even your computer if you are doing internet banking. So because of that, fraudsters are also eyeing this landscape closely and keenly. For example, they would want to know if you are dropping your guard, okay? They will enter that space and actually try to take a picking from your savings or from your money. So that's why today what was launched at Mestil was a consortium to address the issues that we have at hand. People are transacting in this digital space. At the same time, the fraudsters are also eyeing this space to come and disrupt our customers. All right.
We'll be getting into details of what this consortium means, but let's hear from the representative of UBA, Ronald. Your quick overview of the sector. You're the major players in this sector. How are you feeling? How is the sector doing from your perspective?
Thank you. Thank you, Kenneth, and good evening to the listeners. The financial sector, as James has explained, has really evolved in addition to what is spoken to, we are seeing a lot of innovation around products. There's a lot of product innovation, not just from the banking sector players, but also from our colleagues in, the MNOs. These are the mobile network operators like MTN, Momo, and Airtel Money, Amcool. And there are also third-party aggregators, Pegasus, True African, who actually facilitate some of the payments that we are seeing. So we are seeing a lot of product innovation. We are seeing merger between services offered by traditional banking, the MNOs, and getting to the insurance space. We are seeing digital lending. I'm sure a lot of the listeners have actually been, taking credit from the phone without someone coming to inspect your location or even know where your home is. They are lending to you. So there are massive opportunities that we can actually reap from these kinds of initiatives. There are massive opportunities for business, for individuals, interventions that help to, pay school fees, insurance products that are speaking to health, So we are seeing a lot of growth and innovation. There are challenges, of course, but that is really big. So what we are seeing is really big. There's huge opportunity. There's also a big opportunity around remittance. We see a lot of remittance from our families in the diaspora, South Africa, Canada, sending money back home. And this is really facilitated through the financial services ecosystem. It's also a very big employer. It's a very big employer. There are easily over about, if we are speaking traditional banking, it's about 20,000 people employed. But when you think about the agent network of MTN and Airtel and the agent banking company, we are looking at maybe, 100, 200,000 plus directly employed citizens of this country. And these are primarily youth. And so you can clearly see the impact and the possibilities around the financial services sector. And here we are now speaking just at a very micro level. If we came to a macro level, maybe James can elaborate on things that maybe the financial sector, the things we are seeing happening, for example, in the oil and gas space, the facilities that we are seeing being syndicated to, for example, facilitate the payment to Meme, at the exit. We are seeing a lot of massive opportunities that we need to safeguard, collectively as a country, because at the end of the day, the financial services sector is really one of the core engines for growth and development for our country. All right. Yeah.
Now, you're the cyber security expert on this table here. Briefly give us a background. What has been happening to the extent that you have thought it wise as the financial sector to actually come up with a consortium to confront the issue of fraud? Okay.
So all the good things I've spoken about have some downside to them. Because while people are working hard, innovating, trying to create opportunities for, our citizens, our people, we also have our brothers and sisters who are out there looking for shortcuts. Looking for shortcuts to make money, the easy way. And we've basically seen a growth in financial crime. We are looking at the Uganda Police Force annual report, 2024 statistics, and there was an 100% increase in cyber-related crime between 2023 and 2024. There were actually 474 cases that were reported in 2024. And the police is doing a lot of work to, investigate these incidents with support from the DPP, Office of the Directorate of Public Prosecution. But also when you look at the stats in that very report, we see that about 65% of the cases, have not moved a step forward. We are not seeing prosecution moving as fast as it should. We are not seeing convictions happening as fast as they should happen. And that really speaks to the environment that we are operating in, the issues around the legal frameworks that are supporting or are mitigating fraud, the issues around capacity, the challenges around insiders in the financial services industry, colluding with fraudsters, the statistics are there, and if you get some time and you read the police annual crime report, you'll see a lot of detail therein. So because of that whole challenge, the challenges around the investigation, prosecution, collusion internally, and the increased rate of cybercrime and financial fraud that we are seeing. Just for the listeners, when I speak about cybercrime, because it really cuts across the financial services industry. It speaks to the banks, it speaks to our brothers at MTN and Airtel and the rest of the service providers. But we also have other kinds of fraud. We have people coming and forging transfer forms. For example, I come and forge your chivanja, then I say I am making a sale of this property, and then someone else is the recipient, and then we try and pull off an illegal transaction, maybe 100, 200 million shillings. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of fraud also around loans. Yeah, people, loans officer come to you to inspect your business. You do not have an actual location. You go to your brother's shop and you're taking photos from there that go on the file. So we are seeing a lot of traditional fraud, but we're also seeing an evolution in the cyberspace. So the fraudsters are getting more sophisticated. Yeah, they are they are evolving, they are growing, they are maturing, they are investing. And because of that, and the need to protect, our institutions and our economy, we also thought it wise to have a consortium to work together, to collaborate as financial service sector players with our regulators being the Bank of Uganda, the Financial Intelligence Authority, and the Uganda Communications Commission, UCC. So that need to collaborate and put a foot down and try and mitigate the fraud that we are seeing is what has brought us to this point.
All right. Yeah. Let's go to Mr. Bukulu. So what is this AFC, Anti-Fraud Consortium, and how is it designed to deal with this threat? What exactly will this consortium be doing?
Thank you, Kenneth. This consortium, for the beauty of our listeners, consortiums, in a layman's language, you've heard of the Malaria Consortium. There are many consortia.
It's like a task force.
Yes, just like, but it started as a forum, then it has grown into now what we call consortium. So this one is a collaboration. We want to collaborate. I think Ronald has talked about the collaboration between UCC, Bank of Uganda, all the stakeholders in this basket. We've seen that we can't walk alone and walk far. That's number one. Then number two, central banks and the business of selling trust. And once that trust is dented, nobody will walk tomorrow and leave their money in a commercial bank or in a circle, because now they are not sure whether a cyber criminal is not going to snatch their money. Kenneth, networks, these guys are networked. We need networks to fight networks. The good networks fighting the bad networks. So this consortium is going to help out in terms of weeding out the bad apples from our society. Cyber is huge and big. I think the expert has said that people don't have to be in Uganda to actually hack your system. They can be somewhere in Singapore, outside remotely, and they're accessing your money in here as you are seated in the studio. Now, to defeat them, we have to be formidable. You see, if you are working alone, you can only go far. But if you work as a team, for example, I think Ronald has mentioned police. We need the police's hand to be on the deck. We'll need UCC, because most people in this country are customers of mobile money. They use mobile money a lot. Most of the transactions, cash out. When you want to pay your car, when you want to pay your bill for national water, people no longer actually walk to banking halls. So these are fertile grounds for cyber criminals to come and inject their fingers into.
Mm.
Now, the problem we are trying to address, as I mentioned in the opening, that this consortium that has been unveiled today
Mm.
is for the good and sake of the customers, the bankers, the regulators, the law enforcers. As mentioned, 474 cases from maybe a paltry 100.
Mm.
This is a huge. I think they have a dedicated desk to.
And those are the
actually-
only cases that have
those are
been
the-
reported.
But what about those that are not reported?
Mm.
So when we join hands, we'll make sure that this kind of advice is actually not only brought to its knees, but probably eliminated in the long run. Much as we cannot, but at least we want to make sure that as much as possible,
Mm.
the cyber criminals don't take charge of the financial system.
Mm. But we wanted to understand clearly, what are you going to be doing? Like you mentioned earlier, there's Malaria Consortium.
Yes.
Malaria Consortium has been around for quite some time, but malaria has also persisted. So
Yes.
will this
Yes.
consortium be of annual meetings where you sit and talk and talk and talk, point fingers, and that's it?
Yes.
Are there going to be any action points?
Can I?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
let me just jump in a little
Yes,
bit.
Ronald.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the consortium is really an initiative to combat, to first of all, to drive collaboration,
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
and to combat financial fraud. So there are so many players who are involved and who we need to work with in this particular initiative. So at the very core, what we've done is that the primary victims, let me call them victims in quotes, yeah, meaning the banks and the payment service providers. Just for clarity, for the viewer, sorry, for the listeners, just to understand, at the Bank of Uganda, there are two departments that oversee financial services directly.
Mm.
Yeah, one is the supervision department that oversees banking. Then we have the National Payment Systems Department that oversees the payment service providers and operators who are regulated under the National Payment Systems Act. Yeah, and therein, that's why you find you have MTN, Airtel, and different kinds of providers like what we call aggregators, the ones who link traditional banking to the mobile money networks primarily.
The middlemen.
Yes, the middlemen. Yeah. So there are many. I think there are about 40 therein. Yeah. So, and those 40 they also have an association. It's called the Payment Service Providers Association. So the Uganda Bankers Association and the Payment Service Providers Association sat down and said, we need to work together, because when there is a fraud incident in the banking industry, a lot of the time the cash out point where money gets out is through the mobile money network or through the aggregators. So if a bank has an incident and they do not share that information with a payment service provider or operator like MTN or Airtel, then no one, the other leg doesn't know what has happened. So the same people who operated in the bank then go and operate on the other side of the PSP. So we sat down and said, let's work together. Let us first share some information, so that, especially fraud-related information, so that we can mitigate fraud collectively. Now, once we had agreed on that, we went and also engaged our regulators, BOU, UCC, FIA, because they all have different mandates. Yeah? And everything they're doing really is within also the confines of the law. And that is what has that's what has formed the core of the anti-fraud consortium. This particular consortium is chaired by the Central Bank of Uganda. They are the convener, and they're the ones who chair this particular consortium. Now, within the so that is at the core. But we know that we also have other stakeholders we need to work with. Yeah. For example, police for investigations, all the other security agencies, the Office of the DPP for prosecution, judiciary to support us on at the point of trial, Parliament for legislature, laws, we have ministries, departments, and agencies in government, like, for example, NIRA, to help us with identification of citizens, OPM, Office of the Prime Minister, to help us with identification of refugees, DCIC, Department of Citizenship and Immigration Control, to help us with visa and passport identification of customers. And customers, I mean financial sector staff,
Mm.
but also our service providers and our customer. Sorry, and our and vendors, people who provide services to us.
Mm.
So there are so many other sector players that we intend to engage.
Mm.
So that is the core,
Mm.
and that is the structure. Let me just come to the
That's an
objectives.
elaborate structure there, but
Yes.
one of the key players I've not heard you mentioning is actually the consumer, the customer.
You just chipped in before I
this,
finished.
this is our money that you're moving around.
Exactly,
Yeah.
I agree,
Mm.
and I hadn't finished. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I was just giving you the core of where we are.
Mhm.
Yeah, we now have also partners, technical partners, development partners, who provide us extra services. So, for example, every time you go and use your card, you might see it's powered by Visa or MasterCard,
Mm.
and there's a lot of fraud that happens in that space. So, those are actually also key stakeholders.
Mm.
Then we have the fourth estate, the media. The first line of defense against financial fraud is awareness. If the customers are not aware that if you, for example, you share your PIN, with someone else, they can access your money,
Mm.
then we are doing nothing. Yeah. So the media is a very strong key player, and to put out the message around awareness. Yeah. So the media is a very key player. Then we have the customer. Yeah. Our customer, our citizens.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Those are literally the biggest players. But we started from a small core, and we shall keep engaging and coming out.
All right.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that now speaks to the activities.
All right.
You asked about, are we going to be holding workshops and drinking teas?
And I want to come to
Kenneth,
James.
yes.
The James,
Before
James
you-
is the coordinator of this
Before you go
consortium.
to the other
You'll also
question.
tell us the impact that they foresee going forward.
Yes.
Mm.
Before we go to the impact, I think you said Maria has been here with us and she has not gone away.
Mm. Mm.
But clearly, maybe the new infections, maybe people now sleep under mosquito nets because people are aware that if I don't sleep under mosquito net,
Mm.
those mosquitoes are going to feast on me and take away my life.
Mm.
But what is it that we are doing as a consortium, or what are we intending to do? as
What
a
is going to
consortium?
change?
Exactly. What is going to change?
Mm.
Number one, it's going to be almost very difficult for you to commit a crime and run away with it. Or you can run, but you cannot hide. For example, if you've been engaged in a kind of a criminal activity, maybe you are doing swing swapping, or you are the one calling people every day in the morning that give me your PIN, you are going to be cut off, you don't share my PIN, I'm calling from Centenary Bank or whatever bank it is.
Mm.
If you don't share with me, today you're not going to be served. So because it is a consortium, UCC will have the power to actually block. They can actually get you off the air. You can actually not call using that SIM card, provided it is reported, it's been investigated,
Mm.
and is found out that Kenneth has been using social engineering to enrich himself using people's hard-earned money.
Have you been able to
So-
ask UCC why
Yes.
we still have those people using those kind of SIM cards? It's
Yes.
surprising. Even the telecoms themselves, they are stakeholders in this consortium. How
Yes,
do
yes.
these fraudsters still access this kind of lines that probably you'll find belong to somebody else? And
Yes,
yet we have been doing
it-
validation.
Okay, we were sharing with the UCC sometime because we have an OU, Bank of Uganda, and UCC. We've been working hand in closely with them. So why is it that this one's happening? Is because maybe the gospel has not reached deep and far into the villages. So what these guys do, they will go to probably villages in Chiboga.
Mm.
Chiboga is just an example.
Mm.
They find somebody and they say, you have a SIM card, how much do you, can you give you 100,000? I'm just giving an example.
Mm.
So these guys may trade innocently their SIM cards because what Bank of Uganda is doing is to educate each and every Ugandan that once you have a SIM card, according to the law, you are answerable for your acts of commission and omission. If you sell your SIM card for quick money, 100,000 or roughly 50, and somebody, this criminal, is going to commit a crime, you cannot run away. So we have a sensitization program that covers the whole country. So not only in Kampala, so we go deep in the villages. So those radio stations up country, we utilize them.
Mm.
So we are telling our people that if somebody comes with an offer of 200,000, don't sell your soul.
So
for
people have been
200,000.
selling SIM cards. The people have been
police,
making business out of it.
Some do because to somebody, To somebody maybe in the village, 200,000 is a lot of money.
Mm.
It is not,
Mm.
because once police investigates and they found that Kenneth, your SIM card was involved in this kind of fraudulent activity, then they can come for you. So, but the message that we are spreading is not, we cannot say we are covering it in 1 week, in 1 day, but we are continuing to do our campaigns as and when we feel that we should actually put more effort in this.
All right, Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. We need to go for a break. When we return, there are so many other questions to be answered, including what we expect from the regulators, the members of the public, financial institutions. But earlier, Ronald from the Uganda Bankers Association did talk about collusion, which means there are people within the financial system who are colluding with these fraudsters. So are the banking institutions also cleaning their house? And what mechanisms are they actually putting in place to upgrade the technology they are using to safeguard against electronic fraud? Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. We'll continue after this break. We're glad that you're still with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. Our topic of discussion today, tackling the challenge of fraud in the Ugandan financial sector. Two guests in studio, Mr. Ronald Mugisha, Senior Cyber and Fraud Risk Officer, Uganda Bankers Association, and Mr. James Bukulu, Deputy Director, Bank of Uganda. He comes from the National Payment Systems Department in that financial institution that oversees the financial sector in Uganda. So we are looking at the issue of fraud. And before we went for the break, Mr. Baluku, you had talked to us about what is happening with the issues of SIM card. But during the break, Mr. Ronald Mugisha also indicated that he wanted to explain further the challenges that are connected to the issues of SIM cards and how we can deal with them. Yes, Ronald.
Yeah, thank you. So this issue of SIM cards is very fundamental. It's a very critical issue because almost everyone has a SIM card today. You know, if you're above 18, even lower than 18, everyone has a SIM card.
And you need to emphasize that the SIM card is no longer just a platform for calling. It's also a bank account.
Exactly. Yes, it is. Yeah. So there are some regulations. They're called the regulations, the Interception of Communications Act. Actually, there is a law. It's the Interception of Communications Act. And this was enacted, I think, last year, around November, October. I'm not very certain of the time. If it wasn't last year, it was early this year. But I think it was last year.
It was enacted some time back. I think
No, the regulations were issued.
Regulations.
Yeah,
Okay,
the regulations were
regulation.
issued.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think end of last year. And what this does really is what Mr. James was speaking to. It places the responsibility of a SIM card on the owner. Yeah. So if, for example, you have 5 SIM cards registered in your name, and any one of those SIM cards is involved in a fraud, you cannot say, I gave it to my brother, my sister, my child. You are responsible for it. So my first call to action is, please check and see that you don't have SIM cards registered in your name that you're not in custody of.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you are not in custody, make sure you're the one who gave them to someone else. But know that if anything happens, you are responsible according to the law.
And also this
for that.
tendency of helping people to register SIM cards.
Exactly. Yeah. Or my maid, my brother, my sister,
And then they
my
go
friend
away
has
with
come
it.
from the UK. Let me help them register a SIM card. That's not something you should be doing. That's the first thing I wanted to speak to. There is a law. The second issue is around SIM churning. Yeah, because I think a lot of people don't understand this particular concept. What happens is that if you have a SIM card and it's inactive for 90 days, yeah, the telcos actually reassign it. They can reassign it to someone else. Inactive means that you're not doing transactions, no phone calls, no mobile money transactions on it. And why do they do that? Because the telcos are given a spectrum of SIM cards, series of SIM cards that they can use. Yeah,
Basically,
and they pay.
the
They
space
have
becomes
licenses.
small.
Exactly, they have licenses. So they have to reuse those particular licenses. So your SIM card will not be idle for 120 days, and it is not reallocated. Yeah. So at times people complain, oh, this SIM card, it was mine, then I turned it, I didn't use it, and then it was given to someone else.
But in other countries, a SIM card is yours for a lifetime.
No. The SIM churning is not unique to Uganda. These are actually things that are standard even to other countries. Now, the danger is here. When you get your SIM card, you go and open a bank account also. And then you append that particular phone number to your bank account. So the SIM card in Uganda, this is where the difference is between Uganda and other countries. Because our mobile money ecosystem is so grown, and our financial services are actually running a lot off the SIM card. Yeah. So my second call to listeners out there is, if, for example, you've lost your SIM card, if your SIM card has been churned, please make sure you report to a bank and let them know, I opened an account with this SIM card, with this phone number, but this phone number is no longer in my custody. Because what happens if you're transacting and you're getting SMS alerts, they are going to now another individual who has your SIM card. You're no longer in charge of it. So that's what I wanted to speak to around that. There is a law. You can go and read about the Interception of Communications Act. It clearly stipulates the detail on ownership, transfer, and everything around SIM cards.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. James, as Bank of Uganda, you are in charge of these financial institutions. Now, in light of this fraud that we've been seeing, have you issued some guidance or strict guidelines to these people? Some of the interventions that need to be taken include maybe upgrading their systems. What is happening to be able to safeguard the deposits of Ugandans in these financial institutions?
Okay, thank you,
As a
Kenneth.
supervisor.
Yes, thank you, Kenneth. As I speak now, we have close to 40 payment system providers, PSOs, and electronic money. The giant ones, of course, you know them, Airtel Money and
MTN.
and many others, up to 40. Of course, the traditional banks, you know them. The guidelines that we issue, we walk this journey together. We have what we call, we meet on a quarterly basis, at times even on a monthly basis, the CEOs of these institutions. So this journey we are walking, like we said, we cannot, if you want to go far, you walk alone. You walk together. If you want to go near, you walk alone. So it's not that we are the regulators and we are keeping one leg in one space and the other leg is not working. So the guidelines we give are to do with either cyber security or how do you safeguard, how do you make sure that customers' deposits are not actually stolen. In that space of depositing money, and you as a commercial bank, or me, if I have a wallet, I'm using services of a wallet provider. The onus is on the, first and foremost, is on the service provider to make sure that whatever customer you are dealing with, their deposits or their money in their wallets are safeguarded. So it's not good enough to say that for me, my systems were hacked and I can do nothing about it. So you make sure that you do penetration tests, make sure that your systems are resilient, you make sure that you are watching over. There was this haze that happened over a long Easter, we just got through Easter weekend. So these guys target a long Easter weekend when people are gone away. They are sleeping. For them, that's when they start to work. So they know. So they keep two teams, the blue team and the red team. So one team goes home, another team keeps a watch. Just like a shepherd watching over their sheep. So we guide them, we tell them that today you don't need to come with an axe or with to break into a vault. No, you just need some kind of software and hack into.
And the combinations.
Exactly. So they are watching over these systems day and night, 24/7, because by a push of a button, money is gone. People keep, like you mentioned, mobile phones are now bank accounts. So your mobile phone is your bank account. So MTN and Airtel know this. So make sure you don't share your PIN. Make sure you don't unnecessarily go to visit websites where they can somehow something flashes on your phone and then you click it and say the moment
online
you
transaction.
Online transaction. You know, there are things that keep coming. They come in many forms and shapes and color. So they will say, Kenneth,
You have won.
you've won something. Can you click? And before you get to know, they are taking out your details, because the very stage they say accept this before you continue to the next stage. So, but we tell them that the terms and conditions of these services must be known to your customers. So it's not good enough to say that I'm onboarding. I think it was my colleague who mentioned that we have 200,000 plus in terms of customer base in a given institution. So make sure that the customers that you have onboarded, they are not left alone. And we issue guidelines periodically to make sure that either the deposits or the money in the wallets are safeguarded at
All right.
all times.
All right. Ronald, earlier you talked about the issue of collusion, and during the break you even explained further that it's even beyond the financial institutions. But how do we deal with this issue? How does it manifest? Do these fraudsters have people planted in the financial institutions, in the financial system? What happens?
So the issue of collusion, first of all, for any fraud to succeed, and this is common knowledge really, is that there will always be different levels of participation and participants. Yeah. And if you want to succeed, you'll of course have an insider. And there are so many factors, around that. The high rate of unemployment. Maybe people getting paid little money. Socioeconomic factors contribute to all of this. So the human element is actually one of the hugest issues in promoting fraud. And what are we trying to do to mitigate this? One, James spoke to guidelines that Bank of Uganda has issued to financial institutions. On 1st December 2024, there were guidelines on cyber and technology risk. And one of the issues addressed in there was due diligence and enhanced due diligence of staff who have critical roles or access to critical systems. Yeah. So BO is already guiding and instructing financial service providers that you must have enhanced due diligence to try and mitigate fraud. So that is one issue. From the banking sector, what we did is last year we developed what we call the Code of Conduct, and that is really defining how all staff operate and interact within the financial services sector, within the banking sector. This was in February last year, and I believe all bankers have attested to that. So we're basically trying to design interventions to mitigate the risk. We can't fully eliminate the risk around collusion internally, but we'll try as much as possible to mitigate it. And this is the banking sector. But I'm also certain that within the telecom sector, yes, these challenges occur. That's why you'll maybe hear people calling you once in a while and you don't know how they know your mobile money balance and things of the sort. They call them, I think, call. Yeah? Some of them actually just try. They run operations where they're trying, but others also are really structured with people internally. So in any institution, any financial institution, we still have the issue of insider collusion to deal with, but we are taking steps, to mitigate this particular matter. Sorry, yes.
Yes, James.
In addition to that, I think the beauty of this consortium is going to be that if you are involved in a fraud of any form or sort, your name is going to be broadcast to the stakeholders. Remember, we mentioned that we have 20 plus commercial banks, 40 plus PSPs. These are including MTN and Airtel and others. So your name is going to be broadcast. So it is not going to be business as usual. So you are in charge or perpetrated a fraud. You are helping, you are colluding, helping and abetting and aiding fraud. So your name is going to pop up and it's going to be broadcast to the entire ecosystem. So they will know that Kenneth is been involved in this kind of criminal activity and therefore is persona non grata in this ecosystem. So nobody is going to engage you anymore in terms of employment. So that's one way, blacklisting. So it will be some kind of a blacklist or some kind of a mechanism that this consortium we are going to use to make sure that the bad apples are weeded out of the system.
All right. Now let's look at the call for action. Which are the key stakeholders that you're calling upon, and what kind of actions would you want them to take, as a matter of fact?
Number one, I think we called you the fourth estate. I think you are the fourth estate.
The media.
And we are starting today. So we are broadcasting the message far and wide. The customer is also a stakeholder. First and foremost, the onus on yourself as a customer, as a user of the financial services. We mentioned that if your SIM card is police intercepts your SIM card or mentions your SIM card to be involved in some kind of fraud, then you are answerable for it. And then the the PSPs, the payment service providers, all the electronic money issuers, Airtel and MTN, and the commercial banks, they have the duty to protect you as a customer or to offer your service where it will be comfortable. I said in the beginning that we are many players in this field, and central banks sell trust. We also sell some products. We sell trust. So we have to make sure that the trust that we are selling is not eroded, because tomorrow nobody's going to have the confidence to take their money into their bank account if they get to know that probably tomorrow I wake up
and the money is gone.
The money is gone.
All right. We have comments coming in from the listeners, and I'll begin with one. Cyber fraudsters are an essential threat, rivaling terrorism in their devastating impact. Whereas skilled and fraud professionals are on the front lines, but critical challenge remains transforming technical expertise into prosecution-ready evidence. Many experts excel at detecting and analyzing threats, yet struggle to bridge the gap, leaving the perpetrators unchecked and victims vulnerable. The stakes are high, and the battle against cyber fraud demands a seamless fusion of technical prowess and legal acumen. Until we overcome this hurdle, the threat will persist and the consequences will be dire. Now, that's a comment from Twine Charles. He's the CEO of the Third Eye Consult, which is a security firm. Then we have another comment here. I have a lot of questions. We have seen Rwanda and Kenya tabling virtual assets laws to regulate cryptocurrencies. In Uganda, there was a private members bill to do the same. Why is Bank of Uganda frustrating efforts to regulate virtual assets? 2, in order to deal with cyber fraud and consumer protection, well, we need to adopt a Twin Peaks model of financial regulation. Why isn't this happening? And it says Bank of Uganda has never been serious about consumer protection issues. Number 3, a lot of private information belonging to Ugandans is being sold in the dark web due to money lending apps, which creates opportunities for social engineering. This is compromising the authenticity of data financial institutions can rely on to lend money. Why don't we have a Cybersecurity Act that creates legally binding post-incident handling mechanism? And number 5, why are all these gentlemen in the studio not talking about the role of the recently established Computer Emergency Response Team that's supposed to design a defensive cybersecurity strategy for the country? Why not involve them more in the past incident handling? That's a comment from Louis Kizito. He's a lawyer. Then we have another comment. If they found out the number calling and hitting people is for a deceased person, what happens? That's a comment from Samuel in Ntinda. Then we have another comment from Benon Fred Twinamasko. What happens now that most people who got their national IDs in 2015 have since expired? Well, we have a number of comments there. If you can kindly respond to them.
I'll take some. I think this was Twine and someone else. One is around the capacity building. So I've just picked 2 themes, really. One is capacity building, and one is legal and regulatory reforms. Yeah. So what we're doing from the Anti-Fraud Consortium is we understand that there is a huge need for capacity building, and capacity building is not just about workshops and seminars. No, we have to, and we intend to work with the key stakeholders like, police, CID, the forensics department at police, ICT at police, ODPP, that's the prosecution, and judiciary, and enhance their capabilities to understand how the financial services system operates, how that entire ecosystem works for the banks, the MNOs, and the PSPs. So through capacity building, we think we shall be able to, we actually know that we shall be able to enhance our capabilities to investigate and prosecute different incidents, but also to detect. So, for example, UCC has a SAT, a computer response, a computer emergency response team and center, and they've today at the launch of the consortium, they actually offered and said, the capabilities of the SAT are going to be extended to all financial service providers. So we'll be able to get, threat intelligence, understand what is happening, for example, in the deep web or in the dark web, and pick this data like on the credit, that credit data that is being sold, customer data. So those capabilities are going to be shared. That is one. The second is around legal and regulatory forms. One of the challenges that we've seen today around the financial fraud is that our laws are weak. Our laws are weak. They are not deterrent enough. The punishment for financial fraud is very, very weak. So, for example, if I committed a fraud today, the journey to get me prosecuted may be 3 years. And after 3 years, if there is no evidence because of, capacity issues or everything of the sort, I walk away. Even if there is and I'm convicted, the penalties are very weak. Yeah. So we've put these things together. We've actually done a full study on the legal and regulatory framework around financial fraud. We presented this to the different stakeholders. That's why I spoke about the DPP, legislature, and judiciary, and their initiatives that are actually ongoing to review the entire legal framework around financial fraud and design interventions that will actually make crime expensive. Yeah. So that is really speaking the capacity and regulatory issues. I'll hand over to James.
Yes, James.
Thank you, Kenneth. We'll have the question from our listeners. This consortium is standing on a number of pillars. And we've been repeating ourselves, and the callers should know that legal reforms are not a cup of tea or coffee. They take some time, and that's one of the pillars. And that's why this is the target, the bull's eye of this consortium. So what are those things that we need to do to reform our laws? My colleague has said you can be implicated in a cybercrime, then you go and sleep there for 1 year, you are out, you come and enjoy your loot. Probably maybe we have to make this one more punitive, and you feel the pinch. You can go and sleep there maybe for 20 years or more, and also your loot is confiscated. So the other pillar is information sharing. Before, we used to work in silos. If you are in a commercial bank, or if you are in a PSP, a payment service provider, you are just keeping the information to yourself. The other one is capacity building. We want to empower customers. You mentioned as we were beginning that where is the customer in this? So we want to empower the customer to know that anybody calling you, you have actually you have the power to actually switch them off. Somebody is calling you, is abusing you that I want your PIN, or just I'm calling from bank XYZ. If you don't give me your PIN, you are not going to have, you are going to be switched off the network. Just switch them off. So you have the power to do that. So we are building capacity. We are going to be advocating for legal reforms under this consortium, and also information sharing. It is going to be a blend of things. But there were those specific questions that the callers asked. One was about the national ID. I think the minister in charge communicated the extension, because
extension of 1 year.
Exactly. So I think that caller should rest assured that much as the ID they have is expired, but the minister communicated that for the time being, those IDs should be valid. Now, a deceased person, somebody called from Mutinda. There's what we call the estate of the late, and it's handled by the Administrator General. So anything to do with a SIM card of your late father, mother, or whoever, the sister, I think there's a competent office that handles that. So how does a SIM card move from the deceased to a living person? So probably there will be a will, there will be so many things that will guide on that one. The computer emergency response team, I think
he did respond to it.
And then also consumer protection that Bank of Uganda, probably they think we're not doing a lot, or probably they think we should do more. Yes, we are protecting. That's why Bank of Uganda exists, for the customer.
All right.
And we shall do in everything possible to make sure that the customer is comfortable.
All right.
Yes,
that's all we have for this evening. Let me thank you, gentlemen, for making time to come here and sensitize members of the public. I know there will be another opportunity as you begin your work. Probably you should be able to share quarterly reports on what you've been able to do. Since James here said you meet on a quarterly basis, update the country on the challenges that keep on emerging and what you're doing about them, and probably people will know that you're serious about consumer protection.
Yeah, serious.
Well, I've been your host, Kenneth Anderson Lukwago. Up next, we